Grab your passports and your luggage because coming up on this episode, international travel. Welcome to episode 7 of PFM Adventures After Dark. I'm Alicia, and as always, I'm joined by the co-host of the show, my one and only human, and my future husband, Jason. I'm really excited for this one because I've been fortunate enough to travel abroad a couple of times, and it's always fun to look back and remember the experiences.
And I'm excited too because not only will you get to share your experiences, but we have a very special guest standing by that is no stranger to international travel himself.
Some of our listeners might be familiar with our guest this week. For those of you who are not, joining us today is Adam, aka Beans, one of the hosts of the weekly podcast called Tall Boy Radio, which can be found on all the major platforms as well as video version on YouTube. Adam, welcome. Please tell us us and everyone, a little bit about your show. And in the spirit of our theme today, please share how many different countries that you have reached with your podcast.
Hi, yeah, thank you for that. So, well, first of all, it's Tall Boy Radio, and we are in 62 different countries.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've been going for around about 4 years now, and on Tuesday we'll be recording episode 220, and the general theme of our podcast is it just has a general theme. So we normally get a guest on to talk about whatever it is of interest to them, or whether that be we've had actors on, we've had authors, we've had a cameraman on recently, and on Tuesday we are recording an episode with a founder of a charity because we like to do a little bit with charities that are based locally as well.
That is fantastic. That's really impressive. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah,
62 countries. That's awesome.
I know. It's bizarre. And up until last week, we were in the Cambodian podcast charts.
Wow. Can you name all the countries?
No, I reckon I can remember a good portion of them, but it wouldn't make for very good, interesting listening.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So, as you know, in every episode, we do a quick review of something new that we haven't had. Most of the time, it's a beverage. But this week, we're going to eat. But because it's a bit challenging to find a beer or a spirit that is unique and available in both countries, we reached out to Adam for a suggestion, and he came right back with Yorkshire Pudding. Adam, can you tell us a little bit about the dish that we're about to try?
Yeah, so Yorkshire Pudding in the UK, if you're going to have a roast dinner, and that is our staple theoretically every Sunday, when I was a kid, we had a roast dinner, which is some form of roast meat, normally beef, or in our family, it was generally lamb because we're Welsh. So that's like, we eat a lot of lamb. So we used to have it every Sunday, and a big part, my favourite part of the meal is Yorkshire Pudding, which I don't think you get in the States, do you? Is this thing you have out there?
Yeah, no, I've never had that before. We have things like rolls and cornbread, but not Yorkshire pudding.
No, I didn't think so. So basically, it's like a batter that you mix up, and you heat this pudding up in the oven. And my understanding of it, so the recipe itself dates back to like the 1700s,
Wow.
and it was because meat was expensive back then. It was a starter that you'd have with gravy, so you'd fill up on that. You didn't want too much meat, but for me, I think it's the best part of the meal.
Yeah.
And when I heard pudding, I thought, well, this is going to be some sort of a sweet dessert type of thing. But
Yeah.
no, it's just, it's like a roll. It's like a muffin. It's like not a muffin, but it's like a roll, right?
It's like a muffin and a roll.
All
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's shaped like a muffin, but also kind of like a roll, but it's airy.
To me, this is something that there's a lot of, we're getting into travel, throughout the episode here, but to me, this is something that kind of speaks to the cool vibe that we got going on here, because obviously you're over in England. I'm from the northern part of the United States, and, now we're here in the deep, dirty South.
That's right.
Where, to me, this is more like the biscuits and gravy concept,
Yeah. And I have had biscuits and gravy when I was in Texas. So although it's nothing like it, it's a similar sort of concept to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I suspect you might be the only two people in the United States eating Yorkshire pudding right now.
That's fantastic.
Go team.
So I got really excited about this. So thank you for sending this recipe over. I like to cook and I like to try new things. So when I first read about it and kind of learned about it, I was like, well, shit, I got to cook a whole roast. I got to make it into a meal because I feel like it wasn't going to, I don't know, without the gravy and the roast, like by itself, I don't think it would showcase what it is that much if you're just eating it plain by itself. So I went ahead and made an entire dinner. I'm going to hold my plate up here, or Jason can hold his up. So this is what we made. We made the roast beef with the gravy, the Yorkshire pudding, and then, of course, I have potatoes and carrots and some onions up in there.
Yeah.
So, close shot. How'd we do?
I'm telling you now, and I said before, just before we started, to get Yorkshire puddings right, it is a bit of an art, to be honest with you. Normally, when you make them the first time, they come out flat. So you guys have done epic with that. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, I watched a video to try to, help learn about it.
You really got into this.
I really did get
You
into
really
this.
got into this.
I
It
was
was 12 in the
excited.
morning. I actually fell asleep first, and you're
Yeah.
watching YouTube videos of who's your new favorite chef? And you
Uh,
might know who this
Jamie
is. Ed.
Oliver.
Oh, Jamie Oliver, yeah.
So I watched his video to help me. I cooked the roast like I typically would. I kind of cheated and used a crock pot because we were working on the bus, so a little easier that way. But I was looking at different recipes for roasts.
That was me clinking my plate because I'm really just anxious to get in
All
here.
right, let's dive
So
in.
we should try this.
We
I mean,
should.
and thank you for this. Thank you for the suggestion.
Oh, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it.
What's
One
the
thing,
best way to go at it? Do you cut it or do you just pick it up and dive in?
personally, I'll just pick it up and eat it straight away. But no, the idea is you cut it, have a bit of beef, have a bit of gravy with it, yeah, and have it all together. But when you get used to it, and if you're feeling really, really adventurous, what you can actually do, you can make a giant Yorkshire pudding, and you can serve the whole meal inside of it and
Sounds
fill
like
it with
pot
gravy.
pie.
Yeah,
I like this idea.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So I pulled it apart just to kind of look at the texture, and the texture is like kind of light and fluffy, but yet it's kind of, I don't really know if gooey is the right word.
Yeah, a little bit gooey
But
on the inside, a little bit
yeah,
crispy on the outside, and you're perfect.
Give
You
it a
good?
shot.
I'm just going in by itself.
Yeah. You gotta try it by itself. How'd we do?
I think it tastes great. I
No,
don't
it's
know
good.
why, but it reminds me of like a potato cake or something.
Yeah. I know where you're going with that. The
Uh-huh.
places in Yorkshire as well, and that's probably around the UK elsewhere. But if you go to Yorkshire, there are places in York itself where they'll serve you a full, like, Sunday dinner wrapped inside a Yorkshire pudding. So it's done it almost like a burrito as well.
That
Oh my
sounds
goodness.
amazing.
That's great. And although it's cooked like heavily in oil and you get a lot of the oil, maybe it's because it's the sunflower oil or whatever we used, but it's not heavy oil. It's a lot of oil, but it's not heavy oil, if that makes any sense at all.
Hmm.
No, you guys done good making that. I'm telling you, for the first time, that looks impressive.
What's
Yeah.
going to be really impressive is if anyone can hear us over the chewing. So I suppose we need to apologize to your listeners and ours for chewing during podcasting.
And I'm starving, so. But I've
Listen,
never cooked with sunflower oil before. So that was kind of new to me. So I wasn't sure on the heat. So what happened is I poured too much oil in my pudding tins. So I had to drain one of them out because I was worried that it would just smoke up the house.
Mm. On that note, what you don't know is while you were getting prepared for the show, there was considerable amount of smoke out there, and I'm thinking, well, what's that smell? Why is it? So I opened up the oven, and it was the one tin that we mismeasured
It was that one.
that you had emptied was completely full of oil. So it must have pushed the oil out from the one.
Oh,
And oh yeah. Now it's on the bottom of the oven, and now
Oh,
we
no.
have all kinds of crazy things going on. So I don't know.
you're going to be sending me a bill for a new muffin tray. Is that what you're telling me?
No, just an oven.
Fair play.
just an oven. Somebody has to clean it. And now we have a cat in here.
Well, we have a special guest here. We have Lynx, the cat, who is about
How do you
to.
get in here?
Well, I think we might have had a visitor. And so everyone, this is Lynx the cat. We may have to address this because Lynx might literally step on buttons and
Yeah.
do things.
I will address
So, but this is Lynx the cat. There's a few of them in the house.
Go on, I think we need to know why it's called Lynx.
Well, if you notice Alicia's chair, her nickname is Jinx, and although it's Jinx, Jinx, and then Lynx would be Lynx. But anyways, um, Alicia found, so a lot of the animals that are in this house, actually, now we're sidetracked on animals, are actually rescues.
Oh, cool.
So Lynx had a broken leg when she first got him, and she nursed him back. Zadie, who's the official member of our podcast crew here, along with Mom, but Zadie's a German Shepherd, so she doesn't talk much, is now up to 54 pounds, and she was 45 when you found her a year and a half ago. So nursing that one back to health. But yeah,
Okay.
She
That's,
eats enough food for like a 200-pound dog by weight. Like if you go by like feeding recommendations, I've got her eating, okay, maybe 200 pounds is exaggeration, but at least 150.
yeah, fair play. It's good that you do that, though. I mean,
A lot.
a lot of people will just go out and buy a puppy or a kitten just because they want a new pet. It's great that you're rehousing them and giving them a home like that.
Yeah, she's spoiled.
literally stopped on the side of the road and picked her up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was before I even knew you. So
Cool.
this sounds great.
It does. It tastes so delicious. I'm just saying I'm making these again, so thank you.
Oh,
And
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
now I'm on a mission to make the big giant one and then put all the stuff in there.
Yeah, I've never made that one, but let me know how that one pans out.
So,
How do I find a muffin pan for that?
oh, that's a good question.
That's a good question.
Maybe
Yeah,
use a cake tin?
yeah, I would say
It's got to
so.
be like something commercial.
A cake tin. Just use a cake
Yeah,
tin.
yeah, a cake tin, and do them individually.
So the answer to of course, there's always some notes here that we use to guide the show along, and it says, "Would you eat it again?" Hell yeah!
Yes.
Thanks,
That's
Gabby.
good.
This
Thanks
is
for
going
the
to be
suggestion.
on our Sunday dinner list. Cheers to that.
Cheers to you as well, sir.
Cheers.
IPA goes well with this, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
Well, as you all know, PFM Adventures will soon be all about travel. Our journey will take us all over the continental United States, Canada, and Mexico. And we will work and play from anywhere and everywhere.
That's right, Alicia. While I haven't been to any other country besides Canada, I know that you and Adam have. So I thought it'd be fun, both fitting and fun, to talk about the places you have been and the experiences you've had there. So let's start with a quick rundown of the countries each of you have visited. Adam, let's start with you. I know you got a few under your belt.
Yeah, so similar to yourself, I've been to Canada. I've visited the States on quite a few occasions. That's actually the States is one of my favorite places to visit. And I've also been to India, to Spain, to France, to Belgium, to Greece, to Holland. I think that's everywhere. I think that's everywhere.
That's awesome.
That's a pretty good list, though. I think I counted 10 when you had sent me the
Oh, quite possible.
messages.
That sounded.
So,
Oh, Russia. I've been to Russia as well.
Yep.
How did I forget that one?
yep. And
So, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and I don't know, you said you were going to Norway, I think is your next.
Yeah, so we've got Norway booked for August. We're going to take a cruise up the fjords, and we're visiting, I think it's 5 Norwegian towns.
Nice.
Very nice.
That's gonna be awesome. So that'll be number 11 for you if I counted correctly.
Yeah.
Yep. You're gonna have to go to every country that they've had a listener to, a meet and greet
Yes.
with Tallboy Radio, right?
I don't know. Some of them are a bit sketchy. There's some places there I'd want to visit.
What about you, Alicia? I know you don't quite have the 10, but you've been to a place that Adam has, and you've also been to a place he has not.
That is correct. So I have been to France as well, and I've also been to Peru.
Oh, cool.
So only 2 under my belt so far, but have some on our list. You know, we're going to travel all over the USA, of course, but I do want to do some international traveling and more so like later in the future. Really, it's all about the food for me and the culture, so I like to experience that.
I think when you're based in the UK, though, it's a little bit easier to do the international travel because if we
Mm-hmm.
jump on a plane and we fly 3 hours outside of Manchester, which is where we fly from, there's a plethora of countries you can actually be in within that time frame. Whereas obviously in the States, it's so vast. You've got plenty of the States to visit before you go elsewhere.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Right. Yeah. No matter where you go internationally, unless you're going to South America, but you're still not really going to drive there. You still have to hop and cross a 4-hour ocean. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they're long flights. Like going to France, I believe in total it took me like 14 or 16 hours to get there. It was
Wow.
a long time.
Wow. Whereabouts in France did you go to?
I went to Rouen and then Paris. It's about an hour outside of Paris.
Yeah.
Stayed
Yeah.
in Rouen for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then just visited Paris like 2 or 3 days,
Oh, awesome.
like day
Awesome.
trips on the train.
And that actually was going to be kind of where I was going with this. So there's plenty of memorable places in France, I think. And you've been to Rouen. How do you spell that again?
I have a mouthful of roast beef
I
right now.
know, it's great. This is the perfect
It's
thing
it's
for audio.
Rouen.
Yeah.
Alabamians would probably say ruin, but when you go there, it's more like wah, because if you say ruin, they're like, what? They don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the French language is a difficult one to grasp.
It is. And I probably still don't say it correctly, to be honest.
So where did you go in France, Adam?
I went to Paris, so I've been to Paris twice. So we went in Easter last year, but last year when we went, it was purely for the kids. We took them to Disneyland Paris, so we just went there for 4 days. We didn't even take them to see the Eiffel Tower or anything like that because they were rioting at the time. You know, the French,
Oh,
they like to express their feelings. God bless them.
yeah.
But the first time we went, we went to Paris for a week. And yeah, I think Paris is an absolutely fantastic city to visit. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I really, just went and I can't remember all of the landmarks I looked at. The gentleman that I stayed with actually lives there, so he was kind enough to let me stay with him in his flat for a couple of weeks, rent free.
That's
So he
amazing.
toured me. Yeah, he gave me the tour, and really we just walked around every time that we were there, like both 2 3 days that we were there. I think I bought like coffee one day and maybe a couple snacks and sandwiches, but I literally went on a $300 budget and stayed for 2 weeks with $300, and I had money when I came home, so didn't do like the touristy things other than viewing and walking around and looking at stuff. But yeah, absolutely beautiful.
No, amazing. And did you try any of the culinary stuff? Did you try the snails or the frog's legs?
I did not have snails or frog legs. I've had those here, by the way, in the U.S. But I did eat croissants and cheese every day and sausage, like the dried sausage, saisonne. Saisonne, I think is how you say it. I'm probably not remembering, but I literally lived off that the couple weeks that I was there. It was so good.
Yeah, yeah. French cheese is the
Yes.
best. When we went, we tried a few restaurants, and then in the end, literally, we'd just do exactly the same as yourself. We'd go and buy some bread and some cheese and some like cold cut meats, and
Hmm.
take a bottle of wine and sit by the Eiffel Tower every night and have a picnic out there.
Yeah,
It's incredible. Yeah, it's fantastic.
absolutely. One of my favorite things, really, too, is just one chill day. We just had a beer, just sitting outside on a patio. The weather was just perfect, and everything's outside, like all your dining and your drinks is predominantly outside. So the nice weather, you just sit out there, you take your time, you slow down, and you people watch and watch the birds and enjoy your beer, your coffee. That was
So I was
really
going to ask
nice.
about that in terms of, like you mentioned, the cheese. Both of you talked about the cheese. Is there something special about the cheese? And what is the weather in France like overall? Like, is it seasonal? Like, I'm trying to geographically locate it in my brain.
Well, it's probably not as nice as you get it when you have the summer there, I would suggest. But for us, it's quite warm. It's because it's a little south of where we are. They get better weather. I think it's generally warmer. I suppose they have their rainy season and they have their winters as well. But when I went in the August time and the weather was phenomenal. Like I said, we sat out in the sun, came back with a lovely tan
Hmm.
every night, and it was absolutely fantastic. And so their cheese. The French absolutely look down on British cheese, and I think British cheese is okay. We do okay with it, but their flavors, the French cuisine is all about the subtlety of flavors, and their cheeses are phenomenal.
So there really is something different about it and special.
There
Oh,
is. Hmm.
Hmm.
They put a lot of heart and soul and love into it.
oh yeah, they're very, very passionate about their food. The French are.
Hmm. They
This,
are. I was actually reading an article about their food too. Like here, we're all about a quick meal. Like throw some burgers on the grill, pizza, whatever's fast. But there, like when you sit down, it's all about the meal and spending the time with your friends and your family. So they will take all day long to cook a meal because it's all about the subtle flavors, like you said as well. And they want to incorporate all those in there and low and slow and a lot of the meats and
Yeah.
side dishes and things like that. So they put a lot of thought into it, I guess.
I think we
Yeah.
used to be like that in the United States, but we've turned into go, go, go.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because most families don't even enjoy a meal together anymore.
Right.
I think it's the same in the UK, to be honest with you. And in terms of like the Europeans, they are a little bit more close knit like that. Like you say, when we went and we were eating outside the Eiffel Tower every day, you'd see families and they'd all turn up and bring different parts of the meal and just sit there and enjoy it together. And it
Really?
was just, yeah, it was great to see.
Hmm. That
Yeah.
just seems so far. It, it is great, but it literally seems so far fetched to me because it just seems like not real life. I'm glad to see that people still do that. I mean, like that's one of the things that's important to us as we grow older. You're not growing older, but I am.
Whatever.
And I do like cuisine because the center part of my belly tells me that too. But but as we grow older, I want to slow down and I want to enjoy the things that I didn't quite enjoy as I was running through life chasing I don't know what,
Yeah.
and I never got it. But
It's the American dream.
yeah, it's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
So we're just gonna, settle down and enjoy some Yorkshire pudding or whatever travels bring us to, and
Yeah.
and enjoy
Well,
it with
at
people.
the risk of getting a little bit too philosophical, I think you're probably right on the money, though. You become obsessed almost with material possessions, and the older you get, you suddenly realize that they aren't actually all that important. And this journey you're probably about to undertake now, and the adventures you're going to go on, I think you're doing it absolutely the right way because those are the memories when you're there on your deathbed and you go to face your maker. You won't remember the houses that you've lived in. You'll remember the times that you have and the people that you spent it with. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we move on to my next question about languages, because obviously over there in France, there's definitely French is a different language from English. But I do have a question. I happen to notice I haven't made it all the way through the episode, but I was listening to the episode with the British pub crawl. That
Oh
sounds
yeah,
very similar to an adventure we're about to embark on. I
Hmm.
don't think I can make it to 60,000 pubs or breweries, or bars or whatever we might call them here. Wow, that's crazy. That's a great story that guy has.
yeah. He was a real character. So yeah, he it started off basically. He read a local article saying that they're ranking the best pubs in Nottinghamshire, which is the part of the UK that he lived in. And he read the list and he thought, nah, there's better pubs than that. So for the time that the article's due to be re-released, because apparently they did it at the same time every year, he visited every pub in Nottinghamshire, which is something like 700 pubs,
Wow.
and wrote a review on them and sent it off to them and said, look, here's a much more accurate one. And then he thought, actually, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to try and visit every pub inside the UK. And inside 2 years now, he's visited 3,000. He does 50 every weekend.
That's
That
crazy.
is insane. Yeah, because to go to 700 in 1 year, that's literally two a day.
What is his
Yeah,
liver function right now?
I imagine not great.
That'd be fun though.
It would be
Oh, yeah.
fun.
Even if
Yeah.
you didn't have like a full beer, just to have like a couple sips in the taste and experience the environment. And of course, I love ones that have music because I'm a music person. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
very fun.
Yeah, well, he has a half pint in every single pub, so and then maybe a shot as well afterwards. So
Yeah,
some weekends, I'm sure his reviews get a bit sort of blurry towards the end of it.
that's
That's
great.
awesome. So back to where we were talking about a minute ago. So do you either I know you, so I know you kind of have a little. Do either of you speak any additional other languages?
Well, no, is the honest. I wouldn't claim I have any sort of linguistic skills whatsoever. However, growing up in the UK, because we're so close to Europe, you have to learn language in school. So I learned French and German. I did French for about 6 or 7 years. So my French now, if you ask me to speak French, I can do a little bit, like je voudrais un bière, s'il vous plaît. I'll have a beer, please. That's the kind of stuff I know. But
Yeah.
my French is just about good enough to get by in France. But wherever else we've gone and they speak a different language other than English, I always try and learn a little bit of the language so I can get by when I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't speak any other languages fluently. I know about 10 words in Spanish now. I used to speak more Spanish, but if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So I've really forgotten much of the things I knew. And then French, like I was trying to learn it before I went, and I had a few, phrases that I could, but now I don't remember much of it. I could still ask for a croissant because I did that every day because I ate croissants every day. So of course I remember that one. But yeah, I don't speak French.
All right. Well, we'll have to learn. We're gonna. There we go. One of our episodes. We're gonna have to do a We're not gonna do that.
No.
We're not gonna do a language.
No, you're setting yourself a challenge. You need to do
I
an
did.
episode in a foreign language.
Yeah. Well, and what was hard for me just trying to
Google Translate.
learn French. That's not always accurate, by the way. And
No.
people will look at you like you're an idiot when you're like holding your phone up and it doesn't make sense to them because it's not correct. And you're like,
You got the thumbs up
okay, great.
and the fireworks.
But yeah, learning French for me when I was trying to learn was difficult because, I mean, I'm from Alabama. I have a southern accent, and some of the sounds that come out, like the ooh and oh, it's like a different part of your throat, and that was challenging for me. Yeah.
I just hope that no one heard that we're not gonna do that.
What are we not doing?
We're not doing a lesson on language. Anyway, so because you don't speak any other languages, how difficult was it for you guys to be in France or wherever else you might have been that didn't speak English?
And like I say, my French is actually it was okay. It was good. It was good enough to get by. I could, I can book tables. I can converse with people in French and roughly understand what they're saying. I don't get everything, but I get most of it. The most difficult I've found of a place to visit and I learned a little bit of the language before we went was Greece. So I learned enough so I could ask for stuff, ask where things were. But when you get there, all the road signs, obviously, they aren't in English letters. Like the French, they use the same alphabet. Obviously, the Greek alphabet is entirely different. So reading stuff I couldn't do. I can read a bit of French. I can't read any Greek. So I did okay, but there was times there, and I guess Amsterdam was probably one of the worst ones again because the Dutch language which is like it's very similar to Flemish, which is they speak in Belgium as well. It's a really really complicated language. So I remember going to the Heineken Museum in Amsterdam, and I had it all memorized, the stuff I was going to ask for, and I was really pleased with myself. I've got my Dutch accent down, and I went straight up to the counter, and I blurted out the instructions in Dutch. I wanted 2 tickets for the tour of the Heineken, what have you. And then they came back this long string of instructions that we had to follow. And I walked off, and the wife says, "Where are we going?" I haven't got a bloody clue. I didn't get a word of what he said. I focused so much on asking for it, I never thought of what the answer could look like.
Right.
That's great. All the preparation. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
5% ready.
So you have a story, right? You have a story for when you were in Rui. Is that right?
Wong.
Wa. Yeah. And you got lost in the terminal, right?
Yeah. So I don't speak good French, and by good French at all, like say hi, have a good day, whatever. So I traveled all by myself, like all alone, just being my cell phone. But I had it all planned out because my friend was very generous to help me plan because, cell phone signals and Wi-Fi in case you can't Wi-Fi. So had all the maps like saved on my phone and things like that. But when I was leaving, I got confused. So do you know the Saint Lazare train? It's like
I'm not familiar with it now.
Okay, well it's giant. Anyway, I had to leave the train station. These are different legs of travel. I'm trying to think now. So it was in Paris. The Saint Lazare is in Paris, but it's on the other side of Paris.
Right.
So you leave the train station and take the Rossi bus or Russie Bus, as they would say. Well, the train station's gigantic, and apparently when I exited the train station on the wrong side, and I was lost because I knew like the bus was like kind of by the Opry because I remembered and I had my little map, but I'm dyslexic and I'm terrible with directions. So if I get turned like around a little bit, it's over. So I was walking around and I was like, okay, I just gotta get on Wi-Fi or something. And of course, nothing would work. And I was walking around asking random people if they spoke English because I was lost. Like, I've got a plane to catch, so I've got to get on this bus. And I'm just walking around with my bag. Do you speak English? No. And probably like the 50th person I asked, it was this lady, and she's like, oh, a little bit. And I was like, a little bit's good because everybody else is no. So I was trying to ask her, like, help, I'm lost. And she understood that. And I was like, Rossi bus. And she's like, what? Rossi bus. What? And I was like, oh, no, no, no. Russi bus? Question mark. Oh. So then she understood that. So she, her phone worked. So she opened up her phone and kind of helped me try to navigate it. And I got unlost and made the bus because she spoke like 10 English words and we made it work. But it's kind of scary when you don't speak the language and you're trying to navigate and you rely on your phone and things like that. And then when it don't work, you're kind of screwed. I mean, I could have been lost in Paris, like literally for like days. We don't know. But
Oh,
yeah.
I'll tell you one thing about the French. They speak English a lot better than they let on. They just don't like to.
No, I agree because my friend that I was staying with, he's like, oh, a lot of people speak English. It's fine. Just ask, you'll be fine. He's like, they speak English at the train station too. And of course, everyone I asked, they said no. And I'm like, do I need to ask differently? Like, why are you telling me no? I don't understand.
Now, your friend isn't he's American, right, originally, or no?
No,
No, he is
no, he's French.
oh, he is French. Okay.
100%
But he speaks
French.
fluent English.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. Very fluent English. So I didn't need a translator once I got to his place because, he would
No, that's good.
do all the
No,
language stuff for me, but it was the whole like getting there. It was kind of I wouldn't say scary, but it was stressful.
yeah. When we went to Disneyland Paris Easter, so one of the little tricks that we did because they are very particular about using their language. Now, like I say my French is okay, but I taught my daughter, who was I think 5 or 6 at the time. I taught her a little bit of French before we went. We sent her up to the counter and we let her do all the checking in and booking in of the hotel room, and they upgraded us for free just because
Nice.
just because this little girl had little made the effort to speak to them in French, and it
Yeah,
works. It's a trick, trust me.
That's
that's
great.
fantastic.
They knew. They knew.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Do you so France was the one country we talked about. You also went to Peru.
hmm
Did you have any troubles there?
I didn't because it was actually a whole different scenario. So I went to Peru twice, but it was mission trips with a church that I was attending at the time for children. So we had a translator go with us, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I did learn quite a bit of Spanish, like in the process of going, but just kind of backstep a little bit. Way back in the day, I used to work in the restaurant business, and I worked with Spanish-speaking individuals, so I knew a lot of Spanish prior to coming into that, so I could understand a lot of what they would say. Like Adam, I would understand sometimes more than I could actually speak, but that does help a whole lot, and then you can at least speak, your keywords and get some kind of communication going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that actually, because a lot of the words, certainly in the English language, are taken from European languages. So the words are very similar. Like you say, in terms of like bus and boost,
hmm
they're pronounced a little bit different, but effectively they are the same word. So what was that like then being in Peru? Like what sort of stuff were you doing there, if you don't mind my asking?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a mission trip with church. So we were going and doing like children's Bible studies, and they call it Vacation Bible School or whatever. So you like tell the Bible stories, but really you do like a lot of arts and crafts, and you really just love hardcore on these kids. It was definitely a lot different. We went in these small towns. It was San Luis, and it was like 12,000 feet above sea level, so there was no air. But the poverty was just crazy. Like it was sad. Like they didn't have hot water, they didn't have electricity. Um, their food was like just the same potatoes and corn and beef that didn't have any fat on it because they couldn't feed their livestock. Um, So it was really good though. It was really eye-opening as well. Like we are spoiled. We are so spoiled here. So when you go spend time, out in the mud and the sticks and not having like all the luxuries that we have, you come back and you really appreciate things a lot more. And those kids were great. I wanted to take some of them home.
Yeah, I
But
can
they
imagine.
they had to grow up fast there too because they all, they would start working when they were like 2 and 3 years old just to survive. It was a lot
Yeah,
different.
I think that's what I like to say. If you travel to the holiday destinations like Vegas or whatever, don't get me wrong, there's
Mhm.
there's a poverty side to Vegas as well that you can see if you want to. But yeah, when you go to places like that, and like I say, I visited places like India and Russia where poverty is real
Mhm.
concern and an issue. And I tell you what, it makes you very grateful for the life you have when you come back home.
Yep, absolutely. We did spend a couple days in Lima, which was really fun. Did a little hiking, and then there was a mountain, Juarez in Peru as well. A lot of hikers go there. So we ate a couple restaurants and ate some really, really good food. Um, Lots of really good food. My favorite dish was like the lomo saltados, which is basically like meat and French fries and gravy and some vegetables, and it was super good.
Oh, that sounds good.
So
Yeah,
let's take a circle around here on the food thing.
Circle.
So what's the favorite place that either of you have had food in a foreign country? And
I,
what dish was it? Do you have one?
I don't. They're so
I,
different. Like the two countries that I went to, the food was very different, but I love food, obviously. So I really can't choose one. They were so good. Like I like the spicy stuff that some of the cuisines in Peru, but I love the savory stuff and the even some of the pastries and things in France. Like I couldn't choose.
Oh man, my favorite type of food here in the UK. So where in the US, like you'll have your Mexican restaurants over here, there's a proliferation of Indian restaurants. So we
Mm.
went to India, and obviously like the curries, which if you like spicy food, it's a very different type of spice. So my cousin who lives in Texas, he came over, I think it's February before last, and we took him for a curry. And he can handle his spicy Mexican food, but he found it a little bit of a shock in terms of the type of food that it is, because it's often like a gravy or a sauce with either meat or vegetables in it, either with rice and then with a naan bread, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And we when we went to India, like I ate curry solidly for 2 weeks, and I could happily live on curry for the rest of my life. But the best restaurant that we ate in was a place called, I think it was called Celebration, and we were sat on a balcony overlooking the river, and you could see Panjim over the other side of the river, which I think is like one of the larger areas, the larger cities in Goa. And the food was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it was so fresh. And while you sat there and you're eating this fabulous food in the sunshine, and then you've got the lizards as well, the geckos charging around up and around the walls around you. It was like being in a different world. It was phenomenal.
That's really cool. I like curry. And
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
actually understand until the past few years that there's different types of curry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of them they'll use like a very sort of a similar base, but then there's different types of bases and different types of curry. Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
skill. There's a guy actually who's based. We're going to get him on our podcast very soon. We hope. There's a guy called Latif, and he has got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube, and he has his own Indian restaurant, and we've eaten in there for years, and it's absolutely phenomenal. But he's so busy now because he's back and forward to Sri Lanka and all sorts around there, Bangladesh and London, all traveling all around, trying different foods and making his food for other people. He's done incredibly well, I think. Yeah, but his food is phenomenal.
That is fantastic. Do you have a like particular favorite kind of curry? I of course I haven't had like a whole lot of them, but I really like the coconut ones that I've had.
Oh yeah. I'm not a big fan of the coconutty ones.
No?
I like Madras, which is like a very sort of tomatoey based ones,
Hmm.
where it's very heavy on spice.
Yeah.
So if you want it like really spicy, then you go for something like a vindaloo or a fal, or you have the naga chilies in there. And gee whiz, that's too much for me. Madras is about the level I can take now without feeling the old bubble guts the next day.
Yeah.
So I have a question regarding the food. Because you had mentioned, obviously if you're native to a land, like obviously here in the United States, we have imported Chinese food, we have imported, like it's all been Americanized, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we don't know how authentic or not authentic the things that we're eating. And to me, England is a foreign country, obviously, I've never been there, and be a great place to visit. But do you have the same type of thing there with regards to like the native foods from other lands? Are they true to form or are they still Englandized? I don't know if that's a
Questionable.
word.
No, they are definitely. I can't remember the word now. Anglified. There's another there's another version of it. It's actually quite close to the French version for England, which is Angleterre. But yeah, so the curries that you'll get in England, as good as they are in some places, aren't quite the same as the ones you'll get in India, and you'll pay a fraction of the price for them as well because it's incredibly, incredibly cheap out there. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So, and that's kind of what I figured the answer would be. It's funny they come over here and they base, whoever they are, whatever group of people it is, are just essentially making the food to tailor to the land that they're in,
Yeah.
and they hold some of the secrets back.
Hmm.
That's what I think is going on
Absolutely.
here. Yeah. So, is
Well,
there a
some
place that either of you would like to go that isn't? I mean, I know we kind of talked about this, and you're headed to Norway, but is there a place that anybody wants to go that like is really on the bucket list?
I want
I
to
mean,
spend some time in Japan.
yeah,
That's
Japan
that's on
and
my list.
the East is yeah, it's something that I would like to visit. A friend of mine just got back from Japan tail end of last year, and she had a phenomenal time out there. And it is one place I'd like to visit. For me, though, it's actually the places I'd like to visit mainly in the States. So my family's originally from Oklahoma and Mississippi, so those are two places that I'd like to visit. They're probably quite dull for you guys. You've probably been there before.
Well, Mississippi is our
It's a
neighboring
neighboring
state,
state,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
I actually lived in Mississippi as a child
Oh, cool.
for like 3 years, so we could have been neighbors.
Yeah, you never know. You never know
You never know.
whereabouts.
Yeah.
No.
I was in Blue Springs, which was just outside of Tupelo, and I think we did live in Tupelo for a minute.
Oh wow! So my granddad lived in Nettleton, which is the next town over from Tupelo.
Okay, we're
Your
neighbors.
neighbors. Look at
That's
that.
amazing. That is so cool.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, so you could come out and see our bus before we go. We could like bus you to Mississippi and then give you a tour.
Yeah.
Space might be limited, but we can make it work.
That's fine. We'll have a futon. How tall are you?
I am quite tall.
Your legs might hang off. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
You just bring correctly made Yorkshire pudding, and we'll take care of the rest.
yeah. There you go.
I'm making this again. Like this is solid. Like I really like it. I'm incorporating this into
It really is good.
regular added dinner item to the roast for
But
sure.
I'm glad. I'm glad that if it starts there, you never know. It could spread across the whole of the United States, and we can take credit for that.
That's right.
That's great. Does anybody else have any other thoughts on travels or anything that we didn't talk about that you want to bring up, or any question for each other? Or we never talked about Canada. I guess we should probably go to Canada real quick. You've been to Canada,
You've been
Adam?
to Canada.
Yeah, I've been to Toronto.
Okay, Toronto's the only city, right?
Yeah, Toronto.
Which is a pretty cool city, I think.
Yeah, I like Toronto. It was again. I had this perception of what Canada was like. When it's maybe when I watch Gentle Ben or something, it's always like icy cold up there and snow. But it
Hmm.
was baking up when I went. I went in the middle of August, and it was absolutely baking. It was fabulous.
Hmm.
Yeah, I almost forgot about bringing up Canada, but yeah, and Toronto is to me. So my roots, of course, are in Buffalo, which literally you can see Toronto when you're up high enough on certain areas of like right near Niagara Falls, Buffalo area. You can literally see Toronto because it's only 37 miles across the lake. Um, but it takes about an hour and a half to get there. But New York City. I've been to New York City. It's comparable to New York City, and I think you've been to New York City, right? I believe you
Yeah,
or Gaz have been there, or both of you. I don't know.
yeah. Well, yeah, we both. Gaz has been to New York City. I've been to New York twice. I love New York, and it's a fabulous city.
Yeah, and I think Toronto's very very similar. It's the biggest. Well, I think it's like one of the largest cities in the world, actually, still to this day. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's like I say, it is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I'd like to get back to Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say don't be scared. I think a lot of people don't travel, period, international or even like in their own country because they're afraid.
Oh, this is the public
I
service
mean, I'm
announcement you're
just
about to make,
saying,
right? Yeah.
don't be scared.
Don't be scared. No, but that's very true though. Like there's so much
Hmm.
in your own backyard a lot of times that people don't even get to. Like in your own backyard. Go
Yeah,
an hour around your house and step out of the box and you'll probably find you'll be like, oh my goodness, there's that, there's that. Where did that come from? You know what I mean? There's such a vast amount of experiences out there to have, and
Hmm.
I guess the moral of the story is everyone should really just make an attempt to get out there and experience some stuff.
yeah, yeah. And definitely don't be put off by the language barrier. Like I say, when I've learned a little bit of the language whenever I've been on any of the different places that I've visited, and yeah, it is. If you want to learn a new language, yeah, of course it's hard. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. That'd be a lie. But if you want to learn the basics so you can make yourself understood, most of the time they will recognize what you're saying and recognize that it ain't your first language. You're
Yeah.
just having a pop at it, and that you're clearly English. And if they speak English, which let's face it, most places in the world do on some level or another, but they'll appreciate the fact that you've made an effort to speak their native tongue. And I tell you, that goes a lot further than you'll ever imagine. It really does. And like you say, in terms of when you say about the French, I can remember I was in Amsterdam, me and the wife were enjoying a cocktail on, I think it was Rembrandtsplein in Amsterdam. And I ordered, and again, like I thought it all out. I ordered in Dutch. And the girl like said to me in a thick Liverpudlian accent, "I'm sorry, I don't speak it. Can you order it in English, please?"
That's great. So I have to ask, when you did learn the languages a little bit, how did you do that? Did you have someone teach you, or did you like YouTube things, or have a program that you used?
Yeah, just repetition, just repetition. So like I'd listen to the English version. Just back in the day, you'd buy a CD with it on. Now, like you say, you'd bang it on YouTube. So yeah, I just learned like the basic. Listen, most of the stuff I know is how to order a beer in various
Yeah.
different languages. That's it. Yeah,
That's all you need to know. Beer, food, bathroom. You're good.
exactly. Yeah, jobs are good. You're all done.
I should probably make sure that I learn help I'm lost.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I
yeah.
that one I didn't learn. I wasn't anticipating getting lost, but
And
I
every
should have.
and every time I look at this and I'm like, I'm about to say that line there that kind of wraps it up, and then I think of something else. Did you guys have like, is there difference? Like, I mean, obviously there is, but like, what's the alcohol um, scene? I guess like in these other countries. I mean, is there like is a before I go? I guess I let anybody answer that question. Adam, is there any difference between an American bar, air quotes, or a British pub, and then comparatively, are the drink whatever you would call them, the cocktail areas or whatever, are they different in other countries that you've seen?
Oh yeah, I think definitely so. In terms of an American bar, and I love an American bar. Let me make that absolutely clear. It's one of my most favourite places to be ever. But yeah, the British pub, unfortunately, is on its arse at the moment. It's dying because the individual ones, the ones with real character, they just can't survive in the current climate. So they're all chain pubs. They're all offering the same thing. So those traditional pubs, there's few and far between. They have to have something, a very sort of unique offering to keep going. And that's like we talked about the guy who's visiting all the different pubs. That's part of the reason why he was doing it. You want to put these places on the map so that if you want to go and spend a weekend somewhere, he's saying, look, this place is well worth it. And there are some great individual pubs that you can go and visit. So it's well worth it. In terms of like, if you go to, like we went, like Barcelona or something like that, if you go to a cocktail lounge, they have their own European take on it, but it is very, very similar because those sort of ideas have been stolen and borrowed and put together to make it, you know what I mean? If you go to Las Vegas, no, it is not an authentic experience, but it's about as good as, when you see it,
Yeah.
okay, the Venetian background you have in there, the water might not be that blue or what have you, but it is, the cocktails and what have you are pretty authentic. But yeah, in terms, I'll tell you the first place I went, the first place I visited, okay, and I was 16 at the time. I went to Moscow and St. Petersburg in Russia. It was an unusual first choice to go abroad. Bear in mind, I never went abroad with my family because my mum was afraid of planes,
Mm.
boats, trains, so she wouldn't travel anywhere outside of the UK. So the first place I got to go, age 16, again, like I say, I barely took any money, but it was cheap as chips. But like I say, the country's incredibly, incredibly impoverished. And I was 16, couldn't legally drink theoretically, but I was living off champagne and caviar because
That's
it was
great.
for us, it was cheap as chips, but for them, it was now
Yeah.
impossible to afford. It was quite tragic, really. But at 16, you don't really think about those consequences too much.
Yeah. That's great.
Champagne and caviar at 16, man. You had quite the
I know,
quite the
I
exquisite
spoiled.
taste there, sir.
Bougie.
Yeah, no, I hated caviar just for the record. Champagne, I was okay with.
Did you get
Nice.
to any bars or anything? One of the ones.
Um, I mean, no, when I was in Peru, I was on a mission trip, so there was no drinking involved.
Yeah, that's a
But
misguided question.
I did drink Inca Cola, which was delicious. It was like my favorite soda ever. It's actually made by Coca-Cola, which I didn't know that, but it's called Inca Cola. It's kind of like a light yellow color, and it's almost like um, cream soda with something. Like cream soda and Sprite mixed
Okay.
kind of is
Sounds pretty
the
good.
flavor. But it was really good. And when I was in France, I didn't really go to any pubs or bars, but I mean, I did have a couple beers like out on a patio, but the beer just seemed,
Beer
it was
like.
beer. It was
Yeah.
good. It
Yeah,
was more of just soaking up the moment, enjoying a cold one, people watching, looking at, all the beautiful buildings and things like that.
the French absolutely love their wine. They are big on wine, and this is the one thing.
Yeah, I
If
did
you
have some good wine.
you will have some good wine in
Uh-huh.
French. In France, sorry, but yeah, if you go to a French bar or restaurant, often it's cheaper to have a glass of wine than it is to have a glass of Coke.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I did have a
Because
couple
it's so
bottles of
because it's
wine
so
though.
prevalent. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
really,
Oh man, they love their
no
wine.
kidding. Hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bordeaux.
Wine and cheese.
Uh,
Mm.
this probably seems like a perfect time for us to shout out our favorite non-paying sponsor, Mr. Chewy.
Mr.
How
Chewy.
authentic is Mr. Chewy's food? So we
I
have a sorry backstory real quick, and thank you to Mr. Chewy, who is a local um, what am I
food
food truck.
truck.
Thank you, vendor who recognizes us and follows us on Facebook. We walked up the other night on Friday nights, our date night, and we went and got street tacos, and we walked up, and he's like, "Oh, I follow you guys," and I was like, "Oh, cool." And
Yeah.
we got to experience a complimentary
Horchata.
horchata,
Horchata.
which is rice water and Mexican chocolate or Mexican cinnamon
Cinnamon.
and
Oh,
Milk.
milk. And
Like whole milk.
it doesn't sound exciting, but oh my God,
It's so good.
so good. And it takes like 8 hours to prepare this stuff.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
soak the rice overnight and then you get the water out of the rice. And then you add the Mexican cinnamon and the water or the milk or the condensed milk. You either use whole milk or condensed milk. But
How
it was
authentic is his
delicious.
food?
I think it's very authentic.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah, good. I'm glad.
And
That's what
also,
we need.
he has like all the street tacos with 8 different meats. And normally you order like 4 of one meat.
Oops.
So I was like, hey, can we have 8 tacos, one of each meat? And he said, yes, here's a free horchata too. And I was like,
So we
winning.
so we had everything from a
It
steak
was
to a
so
chicken
good.
to a
Tripe?
shrimp to a tripe taco. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was good stuff.
fried
it
taco.
was so good.
Yeah, yeah. This guy's the real deal. But
Yeah.
anyways, I digress.
That sounds interesting. Tripe. I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine that one. That's interesting. I'll have to try that one, I think.
Yeah, it was really good. What kind of sauce was it he had on there too? I don't know. Some kind of sauce he put on it. It was super
Well, there
good.
was the green and then the light green and the dark green and the
But there
the
was another
traditional
sauce
one.
on that one. It was
Oh
almost
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
mayonnaise
That's right.
based, but it was orange, so I don't know. It was good.
You just know that, and this kind of fits in as we come to a conclusion on the show here. But this kind of fits in with the theme is that these places are out there, and I guess the challenge would be, I was talking a minute ago about everybody. Please get out and experience the world. Also, please step out of the chains and go find people that are at least attempting to make food that is ethnically correct and
Yes.
or there's just there's still good stuff out there. I know
hmm
we were living in a world of boxes and robots, but There's still good stuff out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I'd agree with that.
So I think it is time for us to wrap up this episode. Once again, Adam, thank you very, very much for joining us. It was great to reconnect with you. And man, an hour goes by quick, doesn't it?
It does.
And it feels like, I could go on for probably another one. So, but if anybody wants to hear more from Tallboy Radio, how can they do so?
You can, like you say, you can find us on YouTube. We're on Facebook at Tallboy Radio and at Tallboy Radio on Twitter and at Tallboy Radio Podcast on Instagram and Threads. And we live stream every Tuesday evening, although for you folks in the States, that'll be a Tuesday afternoon.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, please definitely go check them out. They're awesome. Thanks again, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you. I have failed very, very miserably. A long, long time ago, at the very beginning of the show, before we set one fork into our food, I was supposed to ask a question, or my daughters were going to ask me a question. In fairness, I guess I have to do it.
Do you have some delicious Yorkshire pudding?
Indeed we do.
I was
And
wondering
indeed
why
we did,
you didn't
because
push the
I
button
forgot
there.
to follow the script.
I thought you were going to put it in later.
No.
That's
But
fantastic.
I requested my daughters yesterday morning. Actually, I said, "Hey, we're recording a podcast tomorrow, and if anybody's familiar, when we do the
Do you have a delicious beverage?
that one, that's my daughter Megan, who I just have canned that one for a couple of years now, and I said I need something special. I need a specific one, so I had them tandem together from all the way up there in New York, and within an hour they had sent me the blooper one and then the one that you just heard. So thank you guys for doing that.
It makes Yorkshire pudding sound a lot more exciting when it's said in that accent as well.
Yeah. It is exciting, though. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, but last week we reviewed the movie Joe, and we asked for your feedback in our weekly X poll. Jason, what did we learn?
We learned that no one has seen this movie.
Oh,
No one said they had seen the movie in the poll.
Nobody.
So I've got nothing else to share other than no one has seen the movie Joe. So we recommended it, and I guess we are finding ourselves out in the off the beaten path here with our movie choices apparently as well. So
it
but yeah,
happens.
it happens. So but we did share our experiences this week, and now we want to know about yours. So how many countries have you visited? How many countries have you been experiences have you had? So head over to X now, take the poll, and we'll share those results with you next week. Adam, again, thank you so much. You get to watch with everybody else while we do our favorite thing.
Our terrible lip syncing.
It's lip syncing, but you requested this, and here it is.
Speaking of the socials, we are present on all of the major socials. The best way to find us is at PFM After Dark. You can also visit our website, merch store, support links, and send us an email. Remember, sharing is caring. We hope you'll encourage others to listen too. If you have an extra minute, please give us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. And if you want to find out more about our journey into schoolie life, check out our PFM Adventures YouTube channel. All of the links are in our show notes.
Thanks for joining us. More adventures to come during the day and after dark.
Lights out.